Wednesday from 7 till 9, with all the best of what's going on, what's going down and around in your town and the rest of the borough. Dacorum Live, only on Radio Dacorum.
Good evening, Leslie Tate here, Dacorum Live. Now, on July the 31st, 2019, 4.5 years ago, for the 5th week of my show, from the very, very beginning, I had a guest. And he's here again.
Hello.
Julian Mount.
Hello, it's lovely to see you again. After all this time, actually we have seen each other in that time.
We have indeed.
Yes, good to be here again. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Right, Julian, you know what the question is. What have you been doing in those 4.5 years?
Well, there was this thing called COVID, see? That put everybody out of action for a couple of years. But apart from that, as a musician, songwriter and singer, I've been playing folk clubs and festivals and council events and all kinds of things. But there was that big 2-year gap in the middle where not much happened apart from I sat at home and wrote songs.
And were they sort of songs about the misery and isolation?
There was one song about the misery and isolation of COVID, which I don't play anymore, but it was part of an art exhibition in St Albans, all about COVID, and I've got the artwork up on my wall on my living room to remind me. But no, I've got some good songs out of it. Maybe I'll play one tonight.
Oh, good. Well, I think that would be a wonderful opportunity to start the show with people hearing what you do, and that's very varied, of course, because although you call yourself a folk musician, you're a modern folk musician, meaning that you go across a certain kinds of genre, and you don't follow the standard traditional folky idea that some people out there may have.
No, I haven't got a beard and I'm not going to put a finger in my ear. I mean, it's radio, you can't tell, but honestly.
Now, Julian, if you'd like to introduce your piece, what I'm going to suggest is you may have to move slightly back from that mic because you've got a very strong voice. It's a very deep and powerful voice you've got. It's very useful, very useful. So if you introduce, and then we'll go for the first song, and then we'll talk about what you've just done.
Yeah, love to. I was thinking, just after Christmas, that, you know, in the run-up to Christmas we play Christmas songs. At New Year we may play New Year songs, and then there's spring songs and summer songs and winter songs, but I can't recall any songs about after Christmas. So I've written one. This is very new, I only finished it last Sunday, and it's called Goodbye Santa. Goodbye Santa, thanks for coming. It was good of you to call. I hope I'll be here next year, still young and not too old, to send another letter, not expecting a reply, to hope for snow on Christmas Eve as I'm searching the sky, for reindeer sleigh and sparkles, Christmas cheer and Yuletide fun, pine trees, lights and tinsel, and goodwill for everyone. I've heard it said, I'm sure it's true, that if you still believe, you'll come down my chimney, bringing presents and then leave. Goodbye Santa, thanks for coming, it was good of you to call. I hope I'll be here next year, still young and not too old, to send another letter, not expecting a reply, to hope for snow on Christmas Eve as I'm searching the sky. So I'll put out some sherry and a mince pie like before. I'll deck the halls with holly and tie a red bow on my door. I'll hang my stocking up next year beside a fine pine tree, in the hope that Father Christmas will remember me. Goodbye Santa, thanks for coming, it was good of you to call. I hope I'll be here next year, still young and not too old, to send another letter, not expecting a reply, to hope for snow on Christmas Eve as I'm searching the sky. January, February, March, April and May, many months still to go until next Christmas Day. If I'm on the naughty list, there's time to make a change, but staying on the nice list always feels so strange. Goodbye Santa, thanks for coming, it was good of you to call. I hope I'll be here next year, still young and not too old, to send another letter, not expecting a reply, to hope for snow on Christmas Eve as I'm searching the sky. The Christmas decorations are all back in the box. I'm using all my best gifts, but I've put away the socks, worrying which wheelie bin to put out on the street, worrying what day it is, which year, what month, which week. Goodbye Santa, thanks for coming, it was good of you to call. I hope I'll be here next year, still young and not too old, to send another letter, not expecting a reply, to hope for snow on Christmas Eve as I'm searching the sky.
Well, if you just switched on, that was Julian Mount, that was live. It was a recent song, only a week old, and it was a song, as you gather, about after Christmas. And Julian, I always make notes when people are playing, and the note I made was music hall. It does feel a little bit musical, but it's also very soft and lyrical and less sort of uppity than musical. But
people have said that before, that
Yeah.
my songs are a bit musical. I'd never really thought about that, but you're not the first person to say that, actually. Yeah.
And so, what I also notice about your work is, first of all, it's quirky. So you're going to take the different line, which is after Christmas, not before Christmas, and as you said,
Exactly.
yeah. So you start from an unusual angle.
I think that's one of the battles of songwriting, and it's what sets me apart, if I can be set apart from some songwriters, is that where I'm coming from is always the quirky perspective, the quirky angle. Absolutely. Well spotted.
Also, the words are rather important.
Oh, yes.
And when we were in the car coming, I asked you if you would talk about how you produce those words. It's a great struggle. Do you edit, which is what I do, by the way, as an author, or does it come first time, or is it varied? What's your technique?
Well, all of the above, really. Some songs fall out the air onto the page. Doesn't often happen, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Others, yes, I edit, because I really enjoy the songwriting process. And sometimes, I elongate the songwriting process simply because I enjoy it so much. And I want to get the words as good as I can. And after I've written a song and it's finished, in inverted commas, the song continues to develop. I learn it, of course, I learn how to perform it, and sometimes I even change the words. So they're kind of fluid things, songs mature and grow, as far as I'm concerned, over time.
That was the words. Of course, then there's the music, and the standard question, okay, I'll ask you, which comes first, music or words? How do they fit together?
Sometimes one comes first, sometimes the other one comes first, and sometimes they come together. That's an honest answer, that's how it happens. Sometimes as I'm writing the words, a tune will suggest itself.
So it will be the words possibly that might change through performance.
Yeah.
Would it also include some aspects of the tune
maybe,
as well?
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. This is why I've got so many copies, so many versions of the same song on my YouTube channel, because you can see how a song develops and grows over time.
Right, tell us about your YouTube
My YouTube channel, thank you. It's called Julian Mount Music. So do look it up, and when you get there, please, please, please press the subscribe button. The more subscribers I get, the better. The more YouTube will recommend my music to other people. every subscriber, every single subscriber is valuable to me. Julian Mount Music on YouTube.
Oh, that really got you going there. The promo. But it's part of being on that circuit that you are. And I know that you play locally in a lot of folk clubs. Tell us about some of those folk clubs, if any of them stand out, or memories of particular incidents, possibly, you know, because this is a very sort of community thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Do you know, we're very lucky in this area. There's lots of folk clubs. There's one in Redbourne, in Church End, in the old school room at the back of the Hollybush pub. That meets every Wednesday. There's one in Chesham at the White Hill Centre. That meets every Monday. There's a great folk club in Watford, the Watford Folk Club, that meets at the Pump House Theatre and Arts Centre every Friday. There's one called Ricky Folk, which meets at the Conservative Club. You don't have to be a member. Every second Tuesday of the month. You won't tell anyone I go there, will you? There's one in Pinner that meets either every week or a couple of weeks, or they do Zoom sessions as well. And there's one in Aylesbury that meets every other Friday. And there's one in Uxbridge that meets on, I think it's every other Thursday or once a month. But you can Google all of these. If you Google, other search engines are obviously available, folk clubs in Hertfordshire or Buckinghamshire, you'll find them all. Right,
okay. Now, we've given a promo to every single folk club for the next 50 miles around here. But what happens at these things? Because I believe that there are a variety of formats that occur, and sometimes 2 or 3 in a night perhaps. So do you want to just talk about the kind of formats that these folk clubs use?
Yes, most folk clubs, when you go there, you'll either land on a guest night where a nationally known star will perhaps do 2 40-minute sets, and there'll be a few floor singers, local floor singers. Or it'll be a sing-around or an open mic or a come-all-ye, whatever they call it, where it's just perhaps local artists who each do a couple of songs each. Or there might be a kind of middle ground, a feature or a spotlight night where a local artist or somebody does, say, a couple of 20-minute sets and the rest is a sing-around. So lots of variety. And let me tell the listeners, when you come to Folk Club, you don't have to sing. People often say, do you have to sing? No, of course you don't. You can just come and listen.
But in fact, when you use the expression sing around, does that just simply mean an open mic, i.e. lots of people getting up and doing their piece for 5 or possibly 10 minutes? Or do you sometimes have people joining in as a group singing, I suppose?
Yes, you can join in with the choruses, of course you can.
And I imagine that some of the people at folk clubs know the choruses quite well. Is that right? Or
yes, or you can teach them the choruses to your song.
Yeah, part of your skill is sort of, right, here's one line, repeat after me, and then we'll do 2 together.
Absolutely. And they're called sing-arounds because we normally sit in a circle, we just go round the circle. Everyone has a song, and then we have an interval, then everyone has another song, and a third song and a fourth song, depending on how many people are there.
I know that at some of the places, I believe it's the one near Watford, that people get recorded as well on video. Am I right?
There's an open mic at the Pump House on Tuesday, which isn't necessarily folk, and sometimes, yes, people get videoed there. Yeah.
When you say it's not necessarily folk, I do think we need to talk about folk. What does this word mean? Because we said earlier, or you said quite, of course, rightly, that it's not just men with beards with one finger in one ear. And then there is a type of folk which I call indie folk, which is quite close to a single person or 2 people doing something quite close to rock in a way, without a drum kit, really.
Yeah.
But then I think you call yourself modern folk, which is, I think, slightly different.
Everyone has a genre as a musician, and I call myself modern folk stroke acoustic. Although this guitar has got a pick up, I can plug in and make it louder if I want to. But to modern folk, to distinguish it from traditional folk.
Right. So come on, what's the distinction?
Okay, well, If you put a group of folk enthusiasts in a room and ask them to define folk music, you could go away on holiday, come back 2 weeks later and they'd still be talking about it. But my definition, consider this, if you turn on a music radio station, there's more than a 90% possibility of the song you'll hear is about love or relationships. Most songs are about that. People can identify it with it. It's easy to write songs about love, or easier. Folk music for me is about people, who they are, what they do, what happens to them, and usually a folk song documents something about their lives, like men go away to sea for 6 months, or we go to the supermarket every Friday, or whatever. So that for me is my definition of folk music.
So I did say in the card to you that in a way some of your music is a bit like the Beatles.
Okay.
Because the Beatles did quite a lot of numbers which are about the everyday, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they have the kind of melodic style that wouldn't be far away from what you're doing and what modern folk people are doing.
If you go to a sing around at a folk club, you'll quite often hear people doing Beatles songs because they're almost being absorbed into the folk culture. Yeah.
Yes, of course. But really, so folk is in particular a participatory activity.
Yeah, I think folk originally came from work songs, things like that. And of course you've got a whole genre of sea shanties that were sung by fishermen and people on boats to help them get the rhythm of necessarily operating the ship and things like that. So yeah, I think that's where it came from. Work songs, story songs, things like that, things that needed to be preserved.
When we say work songs, I think we probably mean heavy physical work with rhythm involved.
Yeah, not so much accountancy. I can't imagine an accountant sitting there and singing a song.
I think we mean blues, don't we?
Yeah.
Don't we mean blues?
I think it's the accountancy
being on the
clients.
chain gang and
Yes.
because
clients,
you hit the rhythm.
the clients of an accountant will probably get the blues, but yes, absolutely. It's about rhythm and stuff like that, making railroads and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, I'm a huge fan of the blues because not only is it folk, in my opinion, but also it has this terrific impact where the singer is doing things with the instrument as well as the voice, which are quite dissonant actually. And,
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
Yeah, and the sort of stereotype of the folk is that it's always in a major key, and I'd like you to challenge that.
Yeah, well, happy folk is in a major key, perhaps.
Yeah.
Sad folk is in a minor key. Blues tends to be in a 7th key, isn't it? Kind of C7.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
E7,
Oh.
yeah.
The pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it expresses pain, the blues. That's
Yes,
a good,
of course.
a good definition, yeah.
Yeah. Julian, it's time we had another piece, please.
Well, I'll sing you a song about folk singing, actually.
Oh, this should be fun.
This is called Folk Singers. It's got a chorus. I don't have to teach you the chorus because I tell you when the chorus is coming in the song. And it goes like this. I'll start with a story, or maybe a joke, a pun, a one-liner, or some anecdote. Then I'll start singing each note, word and pause. I'm a folk singer, here comes the chorus. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If you know the chorus, you can sing along. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone. Sometimes I may stumble and forget the words to songs I have written or songs I have heard. Sometimes I sing slowly, sometimes I sing fast, never reverse to a rousing chorus. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If you know the chorus, you you can sing along. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone. I might play a guitar or a mandolin, a keyboard, a dulcimer, or a violin. I might play a squeeze box or accordion. I may sing alone till the chorus begins. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If you know the chorus, you can sing along. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone. I don't play pop music or that gangster rap, and country and western can leave me quite flat. But give me a folk song and I will sing that. I'm a folk singer, I may wear a hat. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If you know the chorus, you can sing along. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone. Folk songs can be modern or from long ago. Some are brand new and some you will know. Songs can be happy or creep your skin. I'm a folk singer, last chorus begins. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If you know the chorus, you can sing along. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone. We are folk singers, we sing you the songs. If we don't keep singing, the songs will be gone.
I was slightly inclined to applaud at the end there.
Were you?
It's very beautiful.
Don't hold back, Leslie. Thank you. I thought you were going to join in the chorus, actually. I'm most disappointed.
So country music is leaving you flat.
Right, we're having lots of discussion. Now, look, Julian, the reason I enjoyed that particularly is that you show vulnerability. It is. Maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I'll make mistakes.
Oh, too right.
You know, and it's showing vulnerability, which I feel is very important, particularly when men, of course, are on stage. But there is a different type of folk music, which is the rousing kind of strike-led resistance stuff, which doesn't show vulnerability. In fact, it's a very opposite kind of
strength.
Shows
right. Strength of purpose and all that.
Yes, which we haven't mentioned. But I also noticed a line: "I may wear a hat."
Yes. I'm actually wearing a hat at the moment.
He wears a hat all the time.
I do wear a hat all the time.
I think you probably wear a hat. Oh, he's doing his flashing lights on.
I've got flashing lights on my hat as well. Yeah, it's a pity you can't see.
Yeah, and I think you probably wear one in bed. Now, come on. Why does a folk singer wear a hat?
I wear a hat. It's quite simple because I'm a lot less ugly with a hat than I am without a hat. That's it. No, I don't know. I just started wearing a hat, and I keep wearing a hat. It's become a sort of trademark, really. I've got a little logo of me as I would appear if I was in The Simpsons, and that's everywhere, and that's with the straw hat on. Right. So that's me.
So I actually think that is part of folk music, that people develop aspects of their normal and everyday life which kind of mark them out and you know, just start to sort of value the ordinary.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Now I'm going to take you back now to 1968 when you tell me that you began guitar.
I did, yeah. It was.
Do you want to tell me why you began guitar anyway? Why were you interested in music? Were you brought up by parents who had a great interest? Did they actually play? Or was it somebody at school? Or where did this come from?
When I was very young in the 1960s, my parents sent me to piano lessons, as a lot of people's parents did. And I was always grateful for that because it taught me how to read music and it taught me a lot about music. But I didn't keep it up. In fact, it was a bit of a pain going to piano lessons every Tuesday night, especially when Batman started on the telly. But then my friend, he got a guitar and I liked the sound and I thought, I'd like to have a go at that. So I pestered my parents for a guitar. And they took me to Hammond's music store, as it was in those days, and they bought me a nice nylon strung classical guitar, which cost £20. Now don't laugh, these days £20 is worth about 600, so it was a good one. And I went from there, and I did 2 years at the Watford School of Music, had a marvellous teacher called Terence Woodhouse. And he said to me, what type of music do you want to play? And I said, I don't know. So he took me through everything. We did classical, flamenco, blues, folk, everything in that 2 years. And in the end, I decided I liked folk music best.
So you have been playing since 1968. What changes have you seen, in particularly perhaps in folk, since then? And you know, what kind of has audience or performers or the nature of this kind of style, what have you seen that's changed about it?
In the 60s and the beginning of the 70s, there was this big folk revival.
Electric folk?
Well, yeah, not necessarily, just folk revival. And there were loads of folk clubs all over the place. Watford used to have about 4 or 5 folk clubs, and now it's got one. And I used to travel to London. There used to be loads in London and so on. I mean, a lot of them have gone now. But that was the big thing that happened in the 60s or 70s. There was a folk revival. And that had kind of spin-offs for acoustic music and so on. We had Bob Dylan, who was very popular in those days. And of course he started playing electric guitar. But because of Bob Dylan, he had a terrific influence. There was a lot more acoustic music about, and I think that was a big thing in the 60s and 70s, folk revival.
I've been told, in fact, that quite a lot of blues artists, black blues artists in America, came over here because they actually got, although not perfect treatment, clearly better treatment than over in America.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
And of course, so there was a big blues, British blues thing as well, wasn't there?
There was blues clubs as well as folk clubs, and a lot of clubs were called folk and blues clubs.
Ah, yes,
then.
of course.
There was one in, it started off in Soho, then moved to Tottenham Court Road in the 60s, 70s, called Granny's Folk and Blues Club. I used to play there a lot, and yeah, that's one of the ones that kind of melded the two styles together.
So when you were playing in those days, I suspect you wouldn't be playing quite the same material as you are today. Would it be partly covers, or what would be the kind of stuff you did then?
I've always written songs and always played my own stuff, even back then. What I would say is back then I was full much more of teenage angst. I wasn't doing love songs necessarily back then, but they were a bit tortured. Rather than funny, quirky as they are now.
Well, also your style now is quite sort of gentle, and you use a certain style of singing. You have a particular way you use your voice.
Okay.
Is that something that you're aware of and you have developed? Because it isn't the same as your speech voice.
No, that's right. I think you'll find most singers have a singing voice and a speech voice. If you listen to any singer talk, they don't necessarily talk like they sing. And yeah, you're right, you develop your own singing style. I don't know if I could describe mine in words, but some people have said, oh, you've got very good diction.
Yes, you're very precise, and you say the word and you make the emphasis on the word in the sort of way I'm doing now.
Absolutely nothing wrong with someone who gets up and just plays a song, but I like to perform the song, and as you say, with the right emphasis, and although our listeners can't see it, the right facial expression and body language as well.
Well, what I'm going to do to you, Julian, is I'm going to ask you to play another piece, but I'm going to play 2 adverts because we have to have some adverts in the show.
Of course.
And that will give you about 1 minute to think about what you're going to play.
To write a new song, yes.
So here we go with 2 adverts, and then Julian will do another piece.
Many contracts and opportunities these days are often too big for a small charity to tender for.
Dacorum answers this by bringing together a group of Dacorum-based charities as a consortium working together, utilising the strengths of its members to offer a high-quality, cost-effective service for those who are vulnerable or in need in the borough and beyond.
Are you a local, voluntary or community organisation who will be interested in being a part of this exciting new charity, working in collaboration to undertake new opportunities?
If so, email info@dacorum.org.uk or visit our website at www.dacorum.org.uk.
Yes, and we're back, and Julian's been sitting quietly just trying out a few chords, and then he doesn't really know when those adverts are going to end, but he's not worried at all. And you do have a very good performance ethic, and that I think must be from years and years and years of practice.
From years and years and years of playing gigs and practice. I don't know how long ago, about 6 months ago, I realised I'd just played my 6,000th gig. So there's no...
So you've done your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, that's what they say you've got to do, isn't it, before you remember something. Muscle memory, yeah.
Well, it makes you, particularly adept at 10,000 hours. So the story goes that the Beatles did 10,000 hours in Hamburg by doing overnight gigs.
Yeah.
And obviously every genre of music, and that made them what they are.
In Hamburg, I've heard, they weren't doing like a 40-minute set. They were doing literally 5 or 6 hours
Yes,
every
that's
night.
what I understood.
Good grief, Wow.
Anyhow, Julian, this is your moment to perform. Please tell us what you're going to do, or just do it.
Well, you said you like the blues.
I
so,
do.
It's the new year. So here's a New Year blues. When you wake up in the morning and your eyes are red, it's hard to drag yourself out of bed. That's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. When you look into the mirror and you're feeling green, much, much worse than you've ever been. That's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. When your skin is yellow and your mood is brown, you can't recall how you got back from town. The sun is up, but you're feeling down. That's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. When the veins in your eyes look like tube train lines, your pupils are round but twice normal size. That's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. When your heart of gold beats like a swinging brick and your mind is playing visual tricks, that's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. Turns from grey to black, your maroon, there's no turning back. The future's orange now, it's a fact. That's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. When the colours of your rainbow get a little mixed and you need another drink to get them fixed, that's the start of the Multicolour New Year blues. Yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, cerise, magenta, pink and
thank you very much, Julian. Okay, so why is that blues?
Well, it uses the same construction as a blues number,
Which
and
is
it
what?
mentions the word blues
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Is it the chord progression?
Yeah, it's sort of, there's a standard form which I'm sure you've heard of called the 12-bar blues.
Yeah, well, what
And
does
it's
that
sort
mean?
of built around that.
What does the 12 bar mean?
It means you start off with a chord, say a C, and you do a few bars of that, then you go to the 7th chord, and then if you're doing in C, you go to F, and then
Make
it's
your way
that,
back.
that kind of pattern, yeah,
Yeah.
the standard 12-bar.
So over 12 bars of the music, you start and you go through a kind of development,
A sequence,
a
and then you come
sequence,
back.
and then you come back.
And all the time you're singing about how you woke up this morning and everything was going terribly, terribly wrong. That's basically what a blues song is, yeah.
Well, that's your version.
Yeah.
You're rather jolly blues, because actually there is a style of blues which is a bit more upbeat and obviously led to rock and roll, because you speed up blues.
And rhythm and blues, of course.
You get and an intermediate is rhythm and blues.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have actually talked about the folk revival in this country. Now, I can't think of folk leading to rock except for punk, because to me punk is also folk. What do you
really?
think?
Well, but I think my understanding of punk was to kind of get rid of all
The long lead breaks and
yeah, that's right. Make it much more simpler and aggressive.
but also it's very much from life. You know, this is
so.
my ordinary
Street
life.
stuff, wasn't
Street
it?
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And very so to me this is a form of folk.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of types of music that have endured and are about people and what happened to them and so on. So, yeah, maybe the folk of the future, absolutely, why not? Yeah.
So I've got you to write some more music. I can see you as a punk. No, I can't see. You're not a punk performer.
I don't think so.
In fact, actually, can I ask you, Julian, have you always had this sense of fun, which undoubtedly comes through in most of the music you do and is in your character? Have you
Yes.
always had that?
Yeah, my father was a very funny guy, and he had a very quick wit, which I think was genetic because I've inherited it. Well, I like to think I've inherited it. Probably some of my friends would tell you differently. But yeah, I do enjoy being funny, and as we said at the beginning, finding an alternative perspective for everyday things. Yeah.
Because one of the things that you do describe yourself as is an actor, which I
Well,
thought...
I've no describing about it. I am.
Well, come on, tell me more about your acting then. Come on, mate.
I'm a member of a music and drama group called the Maltesers.
Tell us more.
Led by my friend Alison Raymond, who's a very talented lady, and she's one of the many things she is a playwright. And in 2018 we toured with a play called Walter Harvey Hallam, which was about a guy who went off to World War One. We did about 20 performances all over the place. In fact, you watched one of them in Berkhamsted.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I hope
pretending
you
not to
remember
know
that.
about
Oh,
this,
yes,
but
that's good.
actually
I'd be very offended if you'd forgotten.
I haven't
And then
forgotten.
there was lockdown. Then after lockdown, we toured with another play called Northfleet, which was about a sailing ship that sunk just off of Dungeness. And you heard it here first in 2024, maybe 2025 as well. We've got a new play written by Alison called The Snowdrop. And the snowdrop, it's not about a plant or a flower, it's about the most deadly avalanche that ever happened in the UK. It happened on the 27th of December 1836. And if I asked you where you thought that happened, you would probably say Scotland or Wales or somewhere like that. But the deadliest ever avalanche or snowdrop happened in Lewes in Sussex, believe it or not, and it killed 8 people. And Alison, incredibly, has written a play around this event, which we're going to be rehearsing and performing. We haven't started it yet. She's still writing it in 2024. And I play the character of Jack Frost, which is interesting because none of the cast can see me, only the audience can see me, which appeals to my sense of fun.
So playing in a group like that, is different to playing your own songs and words. And so what is your input, and how much does the group form the piece of the work, and how far is it already set by Alison, for instance? Or
Alison writes the play. She quite often uses my songs in the play.
So she takes advantage of what you've already
Yeah,
written.
yeah. Or I might write something special. But of course, the play, like a song, develops, and the characters in the Maltesers who are part of the play bring their own special something to different parts of the play, and we develop it, and when we perform it, it's probably different from how Alison originally conceived it, but you know, that's the great advantage of being in a team.
This is also must involve memory of lines, does it? Or
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's not something that you could vary very much in the way that you've described your own music. You can vary as a result of performances, the words and music. It's much more laid down, surely.
Well, there's always room for a bit of improvisation.
There's particular improvisation areas.
Because these plays are folk plays, and they contain music and dancing and songs and dialogue and sound effects and a little bit of comedy here and there as well. So they're quite entertaining. But there is the ability there to bring our own personalities into it as well. Alison's very good, she lets us do that.
So, of course, mentioning folk dancers immediately makes people think of sort of cloggies and things like that.
Morris dancers, yeah.
Morris dancers, who are interesting. I've actually seen a group of cloggies who do like a tap dance with their clogs, but they're incredibly driven and powerful.
Yeah.
It's quite surprising, some of the things that do exist within the folk dancing tradition.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very broad church, actually. There's a lady called Hilary Krug, I think she's Canadian or American, and she plays the fiddle and clog dances at the same time. That's very hard to do.
Incredibly hard.
But she's incredible. Look her up on YouTube.
What was the name?
Hilary Krug, I think.
Hilary
Or
Krug.
Klug, or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, it's your turn now.
Oh.
I've got to perform.
Okay, this is a song, one of the songs I wrote in lockdown, actually. And I used to know a lady called Judy, who sadly passed away in lockdown. And before she passed away, she told me about this cupboard she had where she kept all her broken things. And as she was telling me, I thought this would make a great song. So I've written it from my perspective, and it's called Broken Things. In my cabinet of broken things, there's a wedding ring that I don't wear, and a charger for a phone that I used to use to call you when you weren't home. A pair of mono headphones without a plug, 2 horseshoes someone gave me to bring me luck, 3 balls of string and a song I used to sing in my cabinet of broken things. In my cabinet of broken things, there's a blue notebook I never read. Names of friends forgotten, numbers and addresses I won't ever need. A picture of a dog who used to make me laugh, a china egg and a donkey made of brass, an old tobacco tin and a pair of angel's wings in my cabinet of broken things. You can throw away those memories that want to stay. Even broken things may be useful one day. Sellotape and glue, nails or screws, can't mend things that happen to you. stands alone upon a shelf, reminding me of times and rhymes and how sometimes I still surprise myself. A bishop and a knight from an old chess set, an invite to a party that I'd rather forget, a pack of cards missing all the queens and kings in my cabinet of broken things. In my cabinet of broken things, some coins from foreign lands I'll never spend. Valentine and birthday cards never used, I know I'll never spend. An empty hourglass which has no sand, an old candle without a candle stand. All these things along with all my hopes and dreams in my cabinet of broken things, in my cabinet of broken things. You can't throw away those memories that want to stay. Even broken things may be useful one day. Sellotape and glue, nails or screws, can't mend things that happen to you.
Yes, that was Julian Mount. Julian, I'm very glad you played that piece because I had mentioned to you that it's a favourite of mine. It's a very beautiful piece.
Thank you.
I noticed that there seems to be a greater commitment as you were singing that, because it's a very emotive piece.
It is.
And I'm very interested in how one controls the emotion, because you can't go over the top, but you need to really identify, and I could see that it was really in you.
Yes, although the idea came from my friend Judy, everything in that song is about me.
I know that, that's what I was
Yes.
going to ask you.
I've got a friend who said, you know, the best of my songs are when I'm writing from the heart, and that's certainly from the heart.
That's definitely from the heart. So it's about loneliness, it's about isolation, but it's also about how one is mirrored or contained by the objects that one lives with.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're all metaphors.
Yes, they are all metaphors, yes, well spotted, yes. Yes.
So you must have spent quite some time on that, because it's one of those list poems basically.
Yeah,
where,
it is.
And they're hard to write because you've got to find the next one and the next one and the next one, and they've got to fit together.
And you've got to make sure the last one is as good as the first one,
Exactly.
because you don't want the quality to drop.
Yeah.
Otherwise the whole point of it sort of gets lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also you need the sort of turn where you say, but they can't fix this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you've got to get the maximum out of the idea that you have, but also it's got to sound natural.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a character study as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I'm revealing much more about myself than I intended to, but yes, you're quite right.
Yeah. But as I say, that must have surely not been one of these ones that came instantly. You must
No,
have
it
got
didn't.
stuck.
I took a lot of care and a lot of time over this one, partly because I wanted to dedicate it to Judy, but also because it was such a good subject. It needed a really good treatment, I thought. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's it's closer to the Beatles perhaps than what people call folk, but actually it is folk in the sense that it's about a person.
Right.
And that's one of the aspects of folk and of singing and music that perhaps we haven't covered, the character study. And the Beatles did quite a few character studies, of course, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
I mean, it's a form of writing, obviously, that I'm familiar with, but it's an important part of a kind of communication in music, the person, and how we grasp that person in intimate detail in ways that relate to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what you've achieved.
Very true. Well, thank you. Yes, that's what I was going for.
Oh, right. By the way, Julian, having said all that deep stuff, do you want to just plug, because we will be coming to an end soon, where people can find your work?
Yes, YouTube, as I mentioned previously, my YouTube channel is called Julian Mount Music. I'm also on Bandcamp. Search for Julian Mount, and there you can stream and purchase all of my public releases right back to the 1970s.
It's interesting, a lot of musicians like you choose Bandcamp. There seems to be a feeling that Bandcamp are a slightly better platform to put your stuff.
It's much fairer than Spotify.
Yeah, you get more back.
Yes.
Though the amount the musician gets
exactly.
is very, very little anyway. But
yeah, but it's a lot more than you get on Spotify.
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah.
A lot of people go on Spotify because they want their music to be out there, but I don't like the way that Spotify is organised. It's a personal thing.
I think we've got about a few minutes. Would you like to do one final song?
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. You said about characters and caricature studies. This is one. This is called They Used to Call Me Superman. I gave up the name when I retired, 'cause I couldn't keep the same ID. And I had to change my clothes so heaven knows bad guys don't recognise me. Well, they used to call me Superman, but now I'm a regular guy. I sold my soul of steel and took the pension and said goodbye. Now I don't use X-ray vision, the migraines have faded away, and I'm beginning to like green kryptonite. I drink 3 bottles a day. Well, they used to call me Superman, but now I'm a regular guy. I sold my soul of steel and took the pension and said goodbye. I still leap over skyscrapers because it gets me high, but I keep the cape in a car, but now I'm getting too fat to fly. Well, they used to call me Superman, but now I'm a regular guy. I sold my soul of steel and took the pension and said goodbye. Last week I felt like a superhero when I finally realised Clark Kent had to go. I married that suit with those glasses and shoes, and guess what I heard on the Troublous News? Lois Lane's gone on the game, Jimmy Olsen's doing time, but Perry White is quite alright now that Daily Planet's online. Well, they used to call me Superman, but now I'm a regular guy. I sold my soul of steel and took the pension and said goodbye. Slower than a speeding bullet, I can't even lift the iron. They used to call me Superman, but now I'm a regular guy. Now I'm a regular guy.
The perfect ending. Thank you very much, Julian.
Thank you,
Julian
Leslie.
Mount. I'm going to move on to our second interview.